Any given tarot deck will consist of minor arcana cards and 22 major arcana cards. And kind of how it sounds, it's the major cards that represent a perhaps stronger energy is a good way to put it. They represent key archetypal moments as part of our growth as we might move through a situation or even a lifetime. It is the 21st card, the card marked 20, that is usually called Judgment. However, some more modern decks might rename this card Reckoning. And how fascinating it is to consider that this is the same word that has been used to describe the 29th degree of any given sign of the zodiac. It has been called a degree of culmination, conclusion, crisis as well. But one thing is for sure, though, as the Renaissance astrologer William Lilly said, he's the author of the legendary, incredibly influential book, Christian Astrology. Well, it was him who said about the 29th degree, the matter has been decided. What happens then when we have a solar eclipse? Not just the fact that it's at this very important anaretic degree, the 29th degree of the sign that it finds itself in, but also it is this eclipse that is having huge conversations with really all the big power players of the zodiac. They are all communicating in powerful ways with this eclipse. Well, it tends to represent a time that is deeply consequential. A time that does bring with it, yes, some sense of closure or culmination, but it's a solar eclipse, which says new beginnings. We may not necessarily have a choice in what it is that desires to begin or begin again. However, we will get a whole other perspective, and we will get this sense of powerful forces at play. Its time has come, our time has come to now start some other chapter in our lives. And that other chapter is about living more fully. It's about being present for our lives that much more fully. But in order to do so, we might first need to recognize where that hasn't been the case, whether it's because of our fears, our uncertainties, or the stories that we tell ourselves, or the ways in which we waste our energy and we waste our days. The reckoning just might be being honest with ourselves. And from a place of self-honesty, well, that just might change everything for us. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of September 21st, 2025. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. A limited number of consultations are now available with me and Andy of Wise Ass Astrology over on my website, nadiyashah.com/consultations. You can learn more and sign up for yours now, link below. The eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo takes place on September 1st, Sunday in the Americas, or Monday the 22nd in the rest of the world. And it is quite the game changer of an energy. It is going to be this eclipse that in some way is going to hearken to what might have been taking place just a month earlier when we had a different energy also in the sign of Virgo, which was a new moon at the very beginning of this sign. Well, now here we are, whereas that new moon before represented just the very beginnings of a beginning, now this is about how beginnings also allow themselves a sense of closure where we might need it. And sometimes the truth is, we don't always know what's good for us. We don't always know what it is that we need until it shows up. And in moments like this, with a solar eclipse no less, in an instant, we realize what pathways truly are done. And that's also another layer of understanding eclipses. Now, eclipses will involve the nodes of the moon, a deeply karmic point, or points rather, of the zodiac. We have the south node and the north node, and these are so important that actually one of my books called The Universe is Wise and Loving is just all about the nodes of the moon, because this energy features so prominently in those of us who are interested in aligning our lives with a path of greater love and greater wisdom, or maybe just those of us who like to explore the chart for what might be coming up and bringing a more predictive element into the mix. Any given eclipse will involve, intimately so, the nodes of the moon. A powerful point in the chart and a powerful tool where it comes to prediction as well, which is one part of our tradition. These points are so important, in fact, that one of my books called The Universe is Wise and Loving is just all about the North and South node, especially as we see it show up in the natal chart, and especially as we're going to see it show up with an eclipse now. Well, that makes it that much more special a time. These karmic doorways, as they've been called, being activated under the light of an eclipse means that whatever happens under any given eclipse, there's something about it that might feel like it's already written, like it's already done. Something about it that feels like out of nowhere we get either a new insight, new understanding, or real events take place that shift our direction in important ways. With this solar eclipse happening at the 29th degree, no less, that sense of the matter not necessarily being in our own hands, that sense of some karmic wind coming in and deciding what this time is going to be for us might feel that much stronger, that much more relevant. And yet, even within that, there is power to be gained. When we have an eclipse, it can feel like a whole lot goes topsy-turvy very quickly. But that is actually part of the process and part of the promise of this time, that in an instant, so much could change. And as such, it might feel as if there's so much that's not in our control, so much we wish we could actually direct in a way that we think is favorable for us. But if eclipses show us anything, it is that we don't always know what truly is going to be the best for us until we are on the other side of whatever it is that landed us there. An eclipse in Virgo is all about looking at our lives, the small moments as we move through the day. We often think of life as representative in big moments, right? The awards that you get, the recognition, the promotion, the family, and the child that was born, for example. The book that was published in my case, right? We think that that's what life is, and that's a wonderful part of life. Those are the peak moments, but that's not actually where life occurs. Life occurs in the mundane. Life occurs in our daily practices and in the small feelings, thoughts, ideas, habits, rituals. It is there that we just might find what it is that defines us, or at least says something about the life that we live. And it is also there in those small moments that we are encouraged to be honest with ourselves. It is one thing to believe in grandeur and in a sense of grandiosity that will lead us in a direction of something even greater. And yes, many lives are made up of these high point moments, but where it is that we move through our lives, where it is that we prepare for those moments, or we are in that space before those breakthroughs come, well, those breakthroughs just might be few and far in between. It is what is in between that the energy of Virgo represents. And what that is you. It is the truth of you, the commonality that you have with everyone and everything, which is ultimately a commonality of routine, of what it is we are habitualized towards doing because we repeatedly do it. Now, how we spend those many, many hours that ultimately make up a lifetime, that is in many ways about our reflection. And at least seeing how we're spending those hours differently now could have a lot of us making big changes, aligning us with something different, something more. Whatever happens now, though, in our lives, it is going to feel very consequential. And that really is because we are going to have all the big outer planets intimately involved in this eclipse energy. And that is thanks to a larger configuration called a kite configuration. So what happens with a kite? Well, we get one planet or point across the sky from another. And this ends up serving as the anchor point. And then one of those points will be sextiling or in harmony with two other placements in the chart. And those two other placements, well, they're speaking in supreme harmony to each other, but also to the other side of the opposition. Okay, so that's all the nerdy talk to say. It's like a kite in the sky based on mathematical precision that is pointing in a particular direction, and where it is pointing to, well, that is ultimately the point or planet that serves as the recipient of all this very powerful energy, as very much might be the case now, because it is the eclipse now that is the recipient. It's not just participating in a kite. It is the resource to the end goal of these huge power players, all pointing in the same direction. Saturn and Neptune both are across the sky from this eclipse, and that gives it that feeling of consequence, especially that Saturn. It's about being honest with ourselves about where we are and having a point of reflection, perhaps based on what we are seeing take place with another or outside of us in some way. Oppositions can sometimes play themselves out in our relationships, but there's something to be said for parasocial relationships. And what that is when we know somebody who might be considered a public figure, however grand or however common, and we feel connected to them. We feel like we know them, but they might not necessarily know us or necessarily know whom it is that we are. And yet in our minds and in our lives in key ways, we have a relationship to them. This parasocial relationship is something that we have with celebrities, for example. We have them, I know for me, with musicians, right? Especially when we feel such a strong connection to their music. And the parasocial relationship as well can show up under the light of this Saturn, Neptune on one side and the eclipse energy on the other side type of relationship indicated here. How we're viewing another, how we might be measuring ourselves to another who might not even know that we exist, or how it is that we are seeing ourselves from outside. And we can say as reflected in the eyes of another, but who is that other? It might be a relationship that we're in. But it's also very possible that that's not the case at all. That this is about what we think we are being seen as. And regardless of how we get to that point of reflection, it is ultimately reflection designed to root us in honesty. And when we are honest with ourselves, a couple of things happen. One is we end up being genuinely empowered, because if we understand where we are that much more strengthened to change what it is that we want. But it is also the case that when we are able to be honest about where it is that we are, well, we just might find that it isn't such a bad place. It actually has its beauty within the mundane and within the ordinary. Well, there's lots of windows there to touch the extraordinary as well. The other big planets involved in this kite formation are Uranus and Pluto. And they form this grand trine energy with this eclipse. Those planets form this grand sextile energy with Saturn and Neptune, which is opposite this eclipse, and it all adds up to visually what appears to be a kite in the sky. And these really big planets, Uranus and Pluto, are planets of change. They're planets of transformation. With Uranus, it's change that happens in an instant. It happens quickly. It happens unexpectedly. With Pluto, it is change that is profound, that reaches a very deep place within us and transforms us in ways that have us feeling regenerated and renewed. You add all these energies up together, and it makes this time, this moment, the recipient of such huge energies. All the outer planets are involved in this eclipse. Well, personally, it's going to be a huge time, but collectively as well. It is going to be this time on a collective level that we are going to notice some change, some sense of where more and more of us are feeling like certain patterns, certain ways of being that maybe were quiet and considered ordinary. Well, that's just not working for us anymore. More and more of us might find ourselves connecting with each other as part of moving towards a changed set of circumstances that change things in a real minute way. But it's the minute changes, especially under the energy of Virgo, that have the greatest impact, that have a way of being that much more far-reaching. It is the small moments that make up a life. What happens when you are able to affect change so that those small moments are lived differently? Well, you end up with a very different collective and a very different experience that the individuals in that collective go through. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't also say, and I know I talked about it recently in one of the conversations I had as part of Synchronicity Web TV here on my YouTube channel, but I was having a conversation with someone, and I can't remember who it was, but we were talking about this idea of how much things are changing in terms of, especially in the United States, with vaccines and health and what is regulated health practice, what we think of as good health, right? That country is going through a whole other understanding of what's required and what isn't, with mixed feelings, with some people being very much on board and other people really not being on board at all. Some people raising alarm bells and some people raising a sense of gratitude, a sense of reward for what it is that's changing now, with certain vaccines no longer being required for children to attend grade school, as just one example. Now, for all that, depending on where you fall in that conversation, you have your own feelings about that. But I do think that this energy of this eclipse, well, it's rather remarkable that so many of these changes are taking place with these huge energies at play, because it is Virgo that is the sign of health care and health practices. It's the sign that has to do with not only the little things we do day in and day out, but the little things that add up to our sense of well-being, including on a health level. It has to do with our medications, for example, and whether we take those medications or vaccines or preventative treatments like regularly every year, or every 5 years, or whether they become part of our daily practice. The energy of Virgo just might have us looking at what we need to take differently in some way, and ultimately feeling stronger as a result. Now, a lot of that sense of strength, again, is going to be deeply personal. For some people, they feel stronger when they feel like they don't have to take any of that. None of that is required. For others, though, they feel stronger when they do participate in these many, many preventative ways of going about healthcare are out there. Now, for all of that, we can't really judge it too much. And I say that because, and in your life, you might be in a position to judge it, and that's wonderful. If you are, you might be a mover and a shaker in that realm, but I actually see it from a couple of different perspectives, at least this situation. People are scared. So much of what we do, I would say almost everything we do, comes down to emotion, how we feel about a given situation. Some of us are scared so that we are looking at these preventative treatments and vaccines and feeling like, oh no, I have doubts. And other people are scared because they're looking at the lack of enforcement of these preventative treatments and vaccines, and they're saying, oh no, What is this going to mean for the collective and how that ends up speaking to me or my family as well? Now, again, wherever you are in that, that is ultimately your own emotional and spiritual journey to take. But as I look at things from a collective perspective, I do think that this eclipse represents some strong turning point. We're already in the midst of it because we did have that new moon energy at 0 degrees of Virgo just a month earlier. And whatever's happening now, it represents the fact that the matter has been decided. And so this just might be a time of implementation that becomes so obvious that it is clear as day. It becomes a point of us needing to have the acceptance of where it is that we are in terms of what we think represents living well in those small moments and what doesn't. Between the eclipse and Wednesday, that is when we are going to have the sun tighten and perfect the same alignments that the solar eclipse energy is going to make. It starts immediately right at the eclipse energy, which is the very precise alignment with Saturn. And then as we move forward, it is going to be on Tuesday that the sun will stand across Neptune, and then the sun, now having moved into the sign of Libra, will on Wednesday perfect that grand trine energy with Uranus and Pluto. And what that means is whatever happens at the eclipse, it's not just going to be about the eclipse, but how it is that our realizations of its significance, our insights, our understanding, our sense of how now things or we are going to be different, that they've already changed or are in the process of changing. And part of what just might facilitate these changes is a choice that we make, a decision that we make. But whatever that is, implementing it and being sure about it, that's what's likely to come about in the days that follow the eclipse. The eclipse isn't about just one moment, but it tends to represent a buildup that ultimately gives way to a clarity, which gives way to further clarity that facilitates change. And so after the eclipse, that is the further clarity facilitating change phase of eclipse energy that we are going to be in. To further affirm the deep sense of consequenceness of this time, it is going to be on Monday, the same day that the sun changes signs and moves into this very pleasant, lovely sign of Libra. I mean, if anybody is polite, it's the Libras out there, even if it's just a mask, even if they're being polite in a way that's just like, oh, the Libras have that down, how to go about doing that. But having said that, on the same day, Mars will leave Libra. And that means that Mars is going to move into the sign of Scorpio. And this is its ancient home sign. And here Mars becomes that much more powerful, that much more intense. And Mars becomes powerful not in a way that has to do with the show of force day face of Mars, as the ancients considered it, but it's the night face of Mars, which is strategic. It is able to understand how to change something to the core of it. And it has an ability to turn over certain stones that other people didn't think to understand what's really going on. That strategicness of this time can be used in ways that serve us well. However, that might not feel like that right out of the gate. And that is because it is on Wednesday that Mars will square Pluto. Mars does square Pluto about once a year. And when we get this configuration, it is always a time when, energies, feelings are running very high. We might feel especially sensitive, but there's a certain meanness to this quality. I do want to be straightforward with you, but what we do with it, that is our choice. And no one can be as mean to us as we can be to ourselves, especially when it comes to how it is that we speak to ourselves. However, the great opportunity of this energy that goes beyond just the superficial application of being mean. Some of us might find that some people are performing meanness, but those are the people who are not able to reflect more deeply, to take ownership for whatever it is that they feel. And so those of us who are able to say, I'm feeling something. This feels really strong. What's going on here, right? Those of us who have the ability to do that just might find that this is a time of tremendous self-honesty. It is a time when we understand what things we have accepted that are no longer acceptable to us. Where it is that we have certain people or situations in our lives that maybe are not very fair to us. And in some cases, and I do want to be straightforward here, where it is we are in situations that are toxic, whether professional, personal, or otherwise, we will have no choice but to look at them because their toxicity is going to be that much more obvious and that much more on the surface. If it is that we haven't realized that we ourselves have maybe not been very nice to others, well, that might be part of this moment of truth, moment of honesty energy as well. With the best of intentions, with the absolute desire to be part of greater love and greater wisdom, sometimes we can still move through life from a place of not being conscious about parts of ourselves or areas of our lives. This energy of Mars and Pluto says we are willing to do whatever is required to change our circumstances. But the important thing is not to lose our values in the process and not to lose our humanity as well. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say this square of Mars and Pluto, especially given the signs that they are in, with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, Mars in the sign of Scorpio. This can be cruel, if I'm being straightforward. And we might see examples of that playing out. And it is part of the world that we have co-created together, that we are going to see such moments. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so how is it that we might participate in something different? Well, our own emotions, our own frustrations, our own desire for difference just might be part of that piece within it that helps us to make a choice that lends itself to change. And whether that change speaks to us and our sphere of influence within our family, or whether that change is able to affect the collective in a more immediate and obvious way, it really is all collective. The things that we do in our own personal lives in those small moments, the ways we speak to ourselves, the things that we think we deserve, well, it sets up that energy for more of the collective to experience that as well as a whole. And so it starts with you. In so many ways, it starts with us. And where it is that this energy isn't necessarily coming out that way in your life, which would be a wonderful, wonderful thing, it'll still point the way to what frustrates you, what you have power over, what you don't have power over, and where it is you want to use your power wisely. Where it is that a certain circumstance has just become untenable to you, you're not okay with it continuing on the way that it has. And it might be something deeply personal. But this is also energy of self-honesty that helps us to own our power. And where it is that it's been hard to be honest with ourselves, well, yeah, it might feel uncomfortable. But where it is that we have become accustomed to being uncomfortable in some way with something that actually we can change and we should change, well, it'll be that much more clear to us, along with this very deep sense of connection to our truth and motivation to experience a change that reaches those very deep levels. And it is from that place that we find the power to then move forward and experience the very beginning of a process that could change just about anything we want or just ourselves in a truly meaningful way. And remember, the same day as Mars squares Pluto, the sun is trining Pluto and the sun is trining Uranus. And what that means is it's not necessarily completely dire. There's a lot of empowerment and clarity and a sense of being able to take what maybe doesn't feel so good, is not so good, and actually channel it towards our higher intent. And where it is that that higher intent is to align with greater love and greater wisdom, well, we just might find the strength, the determination, and the perseverance to do just that. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. Well, it really is all about the eclipse. The eclipse is the big energy of this time, without a doubt, for all of us out there. And it is going to be this eclipse that, for the most part, is going to perfect at some point in the afternoon or early evening of Sunday in the Americas, and on Monday in the rest of the world. And this amazing eclipse energy is about eclipsing the past. It might be a reckoning, but sometimes that reckoning really is with ourselves. And it has to do with where it is that we haven't been honest with ourselves about what we are actually doing. It is one thing to say, I am this, I am that, I'm this kind of person. And it's a whole other thing to have that moment when you realize you've been doing something that really is not a part of those enlightened qualities that you believe yourself to embody. But that's actually a point of progress. It means that you're able to be honest with yourself. And it also means that you're ready to do something about where it is you know you could be better. And it is about being better in terms of our actions, particularly those directed towards ourselves. There's something about the energy of Virgo that's very self-directed. It has to do with what's happening for us personally and how it is that we treat ourselves physically, emotionally, and otherwise. Our ability to be honest with ourselves, even when it's hard, is part of Virgo energy. And all of us are likely going to have a moment when, in our self-honesty, we actually find a tremendous amount of power. But humility is a point of power as well. And in our ability to embrace these various facets of us and to honestly look at what we've actually been doing, not only do we have the power to change it, but it is in changing it that we cultivate a meaningful sense of self-respect and changes towards a more authentic sense of self. And that might be the greatest gift of this eclipse of all. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here's some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes for as low as just $3 a month, with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Consultations are now available with me and Andy of Wise Ass Astrology over on my website, NadiyaShah.com. And it is a very streamlined process for you now that is available there. New dates have just opened up for October in my calendar and in Andy's calendar as well. And at least for me, I know that there's just maybe 5 spots left for the month of October. Thank you so much to all of you out there who trust me, who reach out, who book a consultation with me. I'm so grateful for that. And I know Andy is grateful as well. And so when you head over to my website and you click on consultations, you will be able to scroll down to either one of us. And from there, once you choose the length of your reading, as the case might be, you'll be directed to our calendar. You'll be able to see what slots are available. And from there, you will then choose your slot and be directed to a form where you will tell us whatever it is that you want us to know in advance of our consultation time together. From there, you will be directed to payment. Once you make payment, you will be automatically sent a Zoom link. And it is at that Zoom link that our consultation time will take place. So like I said, it's a streamlined process. And I also want to just say thank you. Just thank you. Again, whether you book a consultation or not, just you looking into it, it just means so much to me to have your trust. And of course, you watching, you being here is also a tremendous source and show of trust. I'm grateful for all of it. So again, for consultations, go to my website, nadiyashah.com/consultations. You'll find that link below. Astrology, consciousness, and the great shift. Oh my God, we are getting closer and closer. This is huge, and lots of last minute signups are taking place to this very special event taking place in Rhinebeck, New York. Whether you're in the tri-state area or not, you would be very welcome to this weekend event taking place the very first weekend of October. So that means not next weekend, but the weekend after. Oh my God, it's going to be so great. And this is an event that takes place every year. Maurice Fernandez is at the helm of this event, and I was just so grateful to receive an invite from him. And I adore him so much. I love him so much. I am constantly impressed by his heart and his insights and his brilliance. So it'll be wonderful to just learn more about him in this context. But not only that, you get, yes, Maurice Fernandez, should you sign up for this event, this weekend event at that. You'll get me. You will get Hanna that I know you've seen on my channel. You will get legendary astrologers Lynn Bell. Yes, the one and only Lynn Bell and Anne Ortelee are going to be a part of this larger weekend event. A big focus is going to be focusing on the sacred feminine. And that includes looking at certain goddess asteroids. I'll be doing Black Moon Lilith, of course, because I love Lilith so very much, and I'm looking forward to sharing about her there. But others are going to be doing other placements, and you can learn about that and resonate with at least one of those goddesses, if not so much more, but also understand how connecting with these sacred, divine, feminine energies really is about participating in the great shift. Well, what your unique journey and your unique contribution might be towards that great shift, I hope that this program helps you in that regard. Now, as far as I understand, and I could be wrong, but as far as I understand, the actual grounds and the lodging that is there on the grounds has sold out, but there's lots and lots of Airbnbs and other hotels that are right around that area. And I actually know of people who have signed up for this program. They're going to be staying at various Airbnbs and hotels in the area. And the program itself, actually, the price point is quite accessible to most of us out there. And so I hope that you will have a look at it. I hope that it's something that feels like it calls you, because if it does, it will find a way to not only come together, but we just might find a way to hug, which will be very cool as well. And also, wow, I'm so excited. I am so grateful. I think this is going to be very special, an amazing experience that all of us are going to be sharing together. And I'm grateful for you to consider to be part of that journey with us. So again, you can learn a lot more and you can sign up now over at eomega.org or check out the link below. I do want to make a note here. You've seen on my channel a couple of my family members, right? My aunt Humera more recently, and also over the years, my aunt Shireen has made a couple of appearances as well. Well, Shireen started a TikTok account at least a few months ago now. And she said to me very excitedly when I just saw her the other day that she now is at 500 followers on her TikTok, and she was elated that as a result of sharing who she is and what she does, she's been able to build that audience. And she's super excited about what is to come. I shared this with you because I would love for you to follow her on TikTok. Wouldn't that be lovely for you to add to those numbers and also get content that feels kind of mystical, that feels like an omen for you as well, as she explores and develops and shares her unique perspective and style of sharing who she is and what it is she loves to do. So you can find Shireen over on TikTok down below at the link in the description. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. Stay tuned for short horoscopes coming up right now, looking at the eclipse energy for you and your sign. Like I said, it's really all about the eclipse, isn't it? And it is a powerful and important time. I'm so grateful that you see me as part of your sacred journey to share these powerful times together. Thank you. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Any given tarot deck will consist of minor arcana cards and 22 major arcana cards. And kind of how it sounds, it's the major cards that represent a perhaps stronger energy is a good way to put it. They represent key archetypal moments as part of our growth as we might move through a situation or even a lifetime. It is the 21st card, the card marked 20. That is usually called Judgment. However, some more modern decks might rename this card Reckoning. And how fascinating it is to consider that this is the same word that has been used to describe the 29th degree of any given sign of the zodiac. It has been called a degree of culmination, conclusion, crisis as well. But one thing is for sure, though, as the Renaissance astrologer William Lilly said, I mean, he's the author of the legendary, incredibly influential book, Christian Astrology. Well, it was him who said about the 29th degree, the matter has been decided. What happens then when we have a solar eclipse? Not just the fact that it's at this very important anaretic degree, the 29th degree of the sign that it finds itself in, but also it is this eclipse that is having huge conversations with really all the big power players of the zodiac. They are all communicating in powerful ways with this eclipse. Well, it tends to represent a time that is deeply consequential. A time that does bring with it, yes, some sense of closure or culmination, but it's the solar eclipse, which says new beginnings. We may not necessarily have a choice in what it is that desires to begin or begin again. However, we will get a whole other perspective, and we will get this sense of powerful forces at play. Its time has come, our time has come to now start some other chapter in our lives. And that other chapter is about living more fully. It's about being present for our lives that much more fully. But in order to do so, we might first need to recognize where that hasn't been the case, whether it's because of our fears, our uncertainties, or the stories that we tell ourselves, or the ways in which we waste our energy and we waste our days. The reckoning just might be being honest with ourselves. And from a place of self-honesty, well, that just might change everything for us. The eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo takes place on September 1st, Sunday in the Americas, or Monday the 22nd in the rest of the world. And it is quite the game changer of an energy. Now, how this eclipse energy will speak to you depends on your sun, moon, and rising signs. Take all three into consideration. Synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And there's lots more horoscopes available right now over on my YouTube channel, Nadiya_Shah, and in the superstar space at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, clients, customers, coworkers, immediate supervisors are covered here as well. And it is these types of people who are Well, they're going to be a surprise a minute, if not a shock a minute. Now, for some, it's going to feel as if one of these people who's really not a boss of you is acting like the boss of you. But the great thing is that it is meant to help you to tap into your power. For some Aries, they might experience some health challenges at this time. Rest can go a really long way. But the energy here is designed to help you to understand what it is that you might need to take better care of you. With that lens towards whatever happens, well, you're that much more empowered to make meaningful changes that very likely benefit you very quickly. Taurus, flirtation, romance, and what the heart is truly wanting. Many a Taurian is going to be getting their flirt on at this time. And where you're enjoying it, that's a great thing, but know that it is flirtation that has this ability to facilitate a deeper, more profound understanding and change within you now. For all that, though, this part of the sky also has to do with creative endeavors and getting clear with yourself about what it is that's going to make you happy. In an instant, you're going to see the answer that likely is so obvious. It's been right there all along. You just weren't ready to acknowledge it. But now that you do, it is a game changer and will ultimately put you on a pathway towards a life filled with a lot more joy. Gemini, home, the past, your living situation, your family of origin, and your parents in particular, where that applies. Well, all of these areas are going to get a fresh look, seemingly, and in some cases, out of nowhere. And so whether it is that you were hoping for breakthrough news related to a parent in your life, that could happen now. Buying, selling, moving, well, the opportunity to do that could feel like it comes up very quickly. And things have a will of their own to get you to be where it is that you are to be. But I think the most empowering insight here is going to be insights into your past. Realizing where it is that perhaps your changed perspective now, well, it frees you. It actually delights you to live that much more in the present today. Cancer, siblings, cousins, neighbors, these people are likely to be a surprise a minute, if not a shock a minute, but ultimately these relationships might go through a key insight or evolution now that is rooted in honesty, but also positivity. There's a sense of breakthrough here, and that could be realizing what's your responsibility and what isn't, what you're going to take on about what they're dishing out and what you're not, but also where it is that real blessings either have been there or now with your insight are being cultivated now. Regardless, though, this part of the sky also has to do with learning, communication, and synchronicity. You finding yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right person. It could make all the difference. Now, I'm not promising you that it feels incredible. It might, but I am promising you that the universe is going to set the stage for you to have a deeply meaningful breakthrough now. Leo, money you earn, money you spend, self-love and self-esteem. A whole new understanding of prosperity in a more meta sense might find you, but I think there are going to be a lot of Leos where this energy ends up being really practical. A new financial opportunity opens up, or one comes to an end, an expense comes up, but you can see the advantages to whatever it might be. Now, ultimately, the choices to make are uniquely your own, but as part of this energy, remember, when we have such strong financial energy, the money you need is absolutely there, but you're navigating spiritual lessons along the way towards understanding what and how you will define prosperity uniquely for yourself. Virgo, identity, priorities, and what matters to you most and first. All of it looks completely different in an instant. Now, for some Virgos, this is going to be a fresh start that represents a point of power. For others, it's going to be having to accept where perhaps you don't have power that ends up facilitating a brand new beginning. For others still, I think you're going to see yourself very differently, and either that will inspire you and be a more loving vision, or what you see makes you realize this isn't who you want to be. But also, I think some Virgos are going to say, that's not who I am. Regardless of what your answer is, it is a chance to see yourself in new ways, and as a result, align with a sense of being more authentically you. And that realization could come in an instant. Libra, soul, psyche, spirit, what's happening on those deeper, more unconscious levels might be playing out here and coming to the surface in powerful ways. If blessings show up, chances are it's going to feel like they come up out of nowhere. This is energy of closing karmic ties and karmic blessings, ending karmic chapters, endings that are fortunate, and a feeling that as a result of what ends, you are able to live that much more fully and do all kinds of new things as a result. Regardless of what your answer is, know that you have a lot more to do in this lifetime. Whatever is part of that fulfillment of all there is yet to do, well, it'll be there. And what isn't, this is a time when, whether you realize it's a blessing in the moment or not, it just might exit your life. Scorpio, friendships, group alliances, all of those alliances might look very different in an instant. You seeing a friend, the role of a friend in your life, the effect that they have on you, all of that might look very different very quickly in ways that you really hadn't expected. Now, I would also add, if you are participating in a group, like a professional group endeavor, your role within that group might change, or it could be at this time that you're invited to join some group endeavor. Whether or not that's right for you is going to be up to you to contemplate. But one thing is sure, you are going for what's real and honest and authentic. And where connections provide you with pathways towards it, you're going to be all in. Sagittarius, career, social standing, life purpose, and your understanding of a higher, more loving vision for your life. All of that just opens up to you now. And it opens up in ways that might feel a bit mysterious, but also very exciting. You're very aware of the work that's involved, of the consequences of new opportunities that could find you at this time. But there's also an awareness that real breakthroughs can transpire for you as well if you will do your part. And the universe is going to give you ample opportunity to do just that. Whether it is promotions, new job opportunities, new career-related beginnings, a greater sense of alignment with life purpose. This is an energy of welcoming in something new that feels, in the larger sense, like a blessing. Capricorn, travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, legal matters, political matters, and the personal beliefs that help you to make sense of the world and guide your life in an instant. All of it might just look very different. So there are going to be some whom, if you are part of some ongoing matter related to one of these institutions, well, this could be a time of a fresh start, a new insight, someone new helping you out, or some decision that leads you forward. Outside of that, though, I think most Capricorns are going to experience this on a level of belief, seeing your political, philosophical, even spiritual or religious beliefs differently in an instant. Now, even if it's hard or even if it feels like you are challenged in some way, ultimately, you find power and strength in the new insights you are finding at this time. Aquarius, profound change, truth, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. For some, it's going to be your attention to matters having to do with a loan, a grant, or benefits you qualify for. So there might be a sense of some very large purchase or a very large sum of money coming in. Regardless, though, you are finding ways to understand wealth, define wealth differently on your own terms, emotional, spiritual, or otherwise. Others out there just might be ready for some big change, some transformative journey that you are fully embracing now. Pisces, love, partnership of all kinds. All of that is highlighted here, and all of this amazing energy that has to do with new beginnings, fresh insights, and a whole lot of power. Well, it shows up for you either in terms of new people that you're meeting to partner with in business, in love, or otherwise, or within established alliances as well. Now, where it comes to established bonds, there has to be a feeling of a fresh start. And if it is that you are open to meeting someone new, I would go so far as to say someone will be there, at the very least, to help you to understand where you are in love and how you feel about it. Thank you for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.